the title of my paper should be have an addition of from Café Cantante to the present, with a focus on the legacy of Latrini. Okay, as the paper morphed, that kind of became very the focus. Throughout the 19th century, the Malagueña was extremely popular and figured prominently in the repertoire of Café Cantante artists. In the later decade of the 19th century, during the golden age of Café Cantantes, or music cafes, the flamenco cante form developed in the Malagueña we know today. As in many palos or genres of flamenco song, certain individuals were instrumental in the creation of the cante and are acknowledged as models and inspiration in its evolution. One such creator of style and repertoire in the Malagueña is the subject of this presentation, Trinidad Navarro, known as La Trini. La Trini is widely acknowledged for her important role in the development of the Malagueña and was recognized by her contemporaries as such. Her repertoire of lettres and her stylistic approaches to the Malagueña created a body of work carried on by a number of key singers. In this paper, I'll discuss her life and work in the context of the period in which she lived, her role in creating the cante Malagueña, and her influence on the work of singers who followed. As Ramón Soler Díaz describes in his article, The Fandango in Malaga, From a Dance to a Rending Song, published in the Global Reach of Fandango, Juan Breva was instrumental, and this is Juan Breva, in transforming the Malagueña from the verdiales form with folkloric accompaniment to a form with guitar accompaniment. He created what is known and now referred to as the cante or toque abandolao, which, while retaining the ternary rhythmic structure, lost the dance-like character of earlier folkloric forms. The 19th century popularity of the Malagueña was evident in its performance throughout Spain, from Madrid to Cádiz to Granada. Juan Breva was responsible for unique interpretations of fandango melodies and recorded his Malagueñas in 1910 with guitarist Ramón Montoya. According to Soler Díaz, Malagueñas underwent a great deal of change in the last decades of the 19th century, initiated by some of these famed interpreters. Juan Manuel Reyes Osuna, known in the artistic world as El Canario, was one of the early great creators of the Malagueña, along with Enrique Jiménez El Mellizo. I don't have a photo of him, who was El Mellizo de Cádiz. El Canario was born in Alhora, in Malaga, in 1857 and died in Seville in 1885. He was a cantor with a very personal style and began his professional life in the Café Cantantes in Malaga. Hired to perform at the Café del Burrero in Sevilla, he died as a result of a knife fight after one of his performances at the age of 30. After his death, El Canario became an object of legend, reflected in books, coplas, and plays. El Canario and La Trini performed in some of the same venues early on in her career, and most likely were acquainted with each other and with each other's cante. A few comments on the Café Cantante of the era, and this era. The cafés were the direct descendants of the academias del baile that flourished in the earlier part of the 19th century in Andalusia. The era of the cafés began mid-century and lasted some 70 years up until the 1920s, where the cafés were then replaced by theatrical venues which featured, in this period, opera flamenca. This 70 years is considered a crucial period in the professionalization of flamenco. The Café Cantantes were numerous and reflected the popularity of cafés throughout Europe at the time. They were also instrumental in challenging the popularity of costumbrismo andaluz, the fascination with Andalus folklore. According to flamenco historian José Blas Vega, the cafés began in Sevilla and then spread throughout Spain. Many were legendary, like the one pictured here, the El Burrero de Sevilla in 1880, the Café de Silverio, or the Café de Chinitas in Malaga. They were often quite large and offered a diverse and eclectic fare. In the Diccionario de Flamenco, Blas Vega describes them as offering, quote, performances that ranged from the best to the worst, performances of flamenco as well as traveling Italian opera companies, French dance troupes, theater, boleros, the ever-popular couplet, and even at times circus acts and fights with small bulls. What is certainly true is that flamenco performance developed became more professional, and that many styles of cante were created and perfected in this ambiance of the cafés cantantes. And here's another image of that era. The most valuable source on the early singers that we have is, or one valuable source, I should say, is Fernando de Triana, who figures importantly in the history of flamenco thanks to his book, Arte y Artistas Flamencos, published in 1935. Fernando de Triana was a singer himself and had worked at a number of cafés, cantantes, where he made the acquaintance of many of these singers of the day. He appears to have been born in Triana and was initiated into the cante by his grandfather. In the early part of the 20th century, he moved to Malaga, where he lived and worked with his companion, Paca La Coja, who accompanied him on guitar. He later returned to Sevilla and ran a Café Cantante there. His book was published in 1935 with funds raised at a festival promoted by famed dancer La Argentina in Madrid, in which many well-known singers of the day participated. Arte y Artistas Flamencos is one of the few sources we have that describes the flamenco landscape of the last decades of the 19th and the first decades of the 20th century. It's illustrated with photographs of the period and anecdotes that are fascinating in the portrait they provide of the flamenco ambiente of the cafés cantantes. Latrini. Much has been written about Trinidad Carrillo Latrini, who was considered one of the major creators and interpreters of Malagueñas. Most of the writers on flamenco agree she left an important legacy in flamenco with her cante, which was used as a base by many cantadores who followed. Antonio Chacon was inspired by Latrini, as were Pastora Pavón and Fernando de Triana. They spent a great deal of time with her at her home in Malaga in order to learn her songs, some of these singers. Born in 1868 in Malaga, her family moved to Sevilla during her childhood. By age 15, she was professional. Notice of her performances appeared in the journal Defensor de Granada in May 1883, announcing the participation of La Trinidad Navarro, referred to in the article as La Niña Sevillana, who sings por malagueñas, soleares, and peterneras, and dances por alegrías y por tangos. Latrini performed frequently in Sevilla at the beginning of her young career, and then went on to work in Madrid. There were a number of notices about her activity in Madrid. She was very successful there. One written by Cantor Rafael Pareja in his Recuerdos y Confesiones. He mentions the presence of Fosforito and Chacon, two other important singers, at the same time as Latrini in Madrid, and all within a particular neighborhood where these café cantantes were located. Back in Malaga, in 1896, Latrini went on to perform and shared the stage with Paca Aguilera in the Café de España. And we'll be talking about Paca Aguilera in just a moment, because she was a very important devotee of Latrini. One of the first to be interested in Latrini was Fernando de Triana, who devoted quite a number of pages in his book to her and spoke of her in these terms, quote, "In those years, 1890, they spoke in Sevilla of a cantadora who'd come from Malaga and who could compete with the best. This was quite a statement to make. Thus the public in Seville wanted to hear this famous cantadora, Trinidad Navarro. In those days, I was contracted to sing in Café del Turco in Malaga. There I had the agreeable surprise to meet Latrini and to judge her abilities for myself. Latrini possesses a great voice, well-timbred, and also has in her favor a refined and elegant face and form of dress, very luxurious," unquote. She began to receive many offers of contracts outside Malaga and began to tour. According to Fernando, later on in her life, though she was deteriorating physically, her health, her artistry as a singer was becoming sublime, in his words. In the last years of her life, she no longer sang in public, but at private fiestas in her venta, a bar she owned and ran in La Caleta, Malaga. Her retirement from performance took place at a concert in her honor in Malaga in 1917, in which Juan Breva and other important singers participated. The concert was organized by Breva to help defray Latrini's medical expenses. It was during this period also that Pastora Pavón, La Niña de los Penes, came to live with Latrini for a while in Malaga. It's generally agreed among writers on flamenco that Latrini was unequaled in her interpretations of Malagueñas, and was a great inspiration for singers who followed. Alas, Latrini never recorded. Oops, we got out of order there, sorry. Here we have Paca Aguilera. Mhm. This was one of Latrini's followers. This cantaora, born in Ronda in the last third of the 19th century, has been hailed by Machado as one of the best singers to come from the province of Malaga. According to Fernando de Triana, she was the cantaora who best continued the tradition of Latrini. He had known her since childhood, when she sang in Seville, accompanied by her sister Maria on guitar. He claims to have first presented her on stage in Cartagena. She then went on to Malaga and copied the cante of Latrini with such perfection, according to Fernando, that in moments she referred to herself as La Trinidad. She did not limit herself to the cante of Latrini, however. She also sang cante from the Levant, tangos, soleares, and soleares, possibly taken from her compatriot from Ronda, the singer and guitarist Anilla de Ronda. She went on to work and live in Madrid, where she died in the 1930s. It's thanks to the wax cylinder recordings that Paca Aguilera made that we have some idea of the singing style of Latrini. Now I have to go back to the previous slide. What do I do here? Yeah, sorry. I'm not on my own computer, so I'm confused. Thank you.
Is that the
That's
one
the
you
one, yeah. Okay, another follower of Latrini was La Agueda. Was this cantaora La Agueda, born in Antequera, Malaga, in the second half of the 19th century. She was a great interpreter of soleares and cantes fasteros. This is according to Fernando de Triana, in addition to being a foremost exponent of the cante of Latrini. Of great beauty, she is shown in a photograph in Fernando de Triana's book, dressed as a torero with flowers in her hair. Fernando praises her and states that, quote, in terms of Malagueñas, after Latrini, it is La Agueda. He goes on to express his regret that she lived such a short life. She performed in cafes, cantantes in Malaga, but died shortly before the end of the 19th century. The golden age of the Malagueña lasted until the 1920s, coinciding with the end of the cafes cantantes. Breva died in 1918, and his death closed an era, this era of the cafes. In the ensuing era, after the 20s, Sevilla became the center of the Malagueña rather than Malaga. And a few comments about the cante itself. As I mentioned, the Malagueñas have a very strong stamp of the individual. The letras and styles tend to reference not region or place, as some flamenco palos do, but rather very personal, demonstrating the personal style of the cantaor or cantaora. Contemporary singers following in this tradition interpret one or two ad libitum styles free of compás and tend to close with the cante abandolao. Malagueñas are considered by singers to be one of the most difficult of cantes to execute, requiring wide vocal range and a deep knowledge of the cante. The legacy of Latrini has continued in the work of many contemporary singers. These singers are very numerous, and they are both men and women. But in the interest of time, I've chosen to focus on just a few, hopefully two if there's time. The first is Carmen Linares. Carmen Linares, of course, is well known. She's one of the most accomplished and respected cantoras of her generation, and a singer who's considered to have a vast knowledge of many forms of cante. Carmen Linares has been very involved in promoting the letras of Latrini and in promoting and performing work by women in flamenco. She first recorded one of Latrini's Malagueñas in her 1996 recording La Luna en el Río, and the Malagueña is entitled En ti pongo mi memoria, and I'm going to play a little bit for you. She's accompanied by Paco Cortés here. With apologies, I'll have to move on here in the interest of time. I was going to play you something of another of Carmen, but I'd like to also introduce you to a younger singer who is does a lot of the cante of Latrini as well. This is a younger cantaora, Antonia Contreras, a native of Malaga. She was born in 1963. She's created a name for herself as an excellent interpreter of many variants of the fandango. She specializes in Cante de las Minas and was awarded the prize for Best Singer, the Lámpara Minera, in the Festival of de las Minas in 2016. And this is a picture of her with her award. This is her pictured in 2008 in summer. I was teaching at the summer course of the International University of Andalusia. It took place in Malaga, and it was on women in flamenco. And part of the one of the activities was this wonderful concert. It was Antonia Contreras accompanied by Laura Gonzalez. And Laura Gonzalez is one of the up-and-coming young women guitarists and pioneering women guitarists in flamenco. She's from Jaén. And she was accompanying Antonia in Cante by women. Cante written, created, or made famous by women. So this was in summer 2008. And I'd like to, and so here's another image of her. And then hopefully this will work here. I want to play you this. It's a little video clip. Do I just hit this? Whoops. It's a link.
Here, let me see if I can help you. So that may not work, youtube.com. So let's try something else. Let's try getting out of this and just going on YouTube. What the heck? Let me get out of here. I don't want everyone to see my email. Even that. Okay, so it's what's the? I wanted to cut and paste. YouTube, watch. Who is it that we're looking at?
Antonia Contreras.
Okay.
2009.
And hang on, Sloopy here. And 2007?
9.
See what comes up?
That's her in the top.
Right here?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Smoking.
Yay, Walter. So just a few quick words in conclusion. Oops. No, Miguel, no, Miguel. Not you, okay. As much as we like you. No, que va. How do I get out of this, Walter? There we go. Okay. In this paper, I've highlighted the key role of the individual singer in the creation, development, and transition of Cante Malagueña, from traditional Cante of Juan Breva, who developed the toque abandolao, to the singular interpretations of El Canario, to the influential stylings and repertoire of La Trini, and those who followed her, the many singers who followed her. These singers and their important individual agency in creating a body of Malagueñas has created the Malagueña as we know it today. While the Café Cantante ambiance of the Malagueña is long gone, the Malagueña is very much with us, as a genre which acknowledges the legacy of earlier singers, while it continues to be enriched by interpretations of contemporary singers. Thank you.